to the charts. All right, so dollar yen. Excuse me, allergies are pretty bad right now here in St. Louis. Pollen, drive your car around, you come in the garage with pollen all over it. All right, daily chart here. We are starting the channel from the October 2018 high. Now we did break above it on a daily basis. Look at it on a weekly basis here. You can see the poke above last week, and then this week reversed everything to the downside. So you remember last week, I actually think the title of last week's stream was something along the lines of like yen crosses. We were looking down, lower, and yen crosses, and this week kind of reinforces that idea because we have a fake or a false break to the upside above this 2018 2020 line. And again, this is a channel. I have it here, and I have a parallel extended from the low here in March 2018, which hit this COVID low last year, by the way. All right, so I have the markups here. All right. All right, so here we have a beautiful, see a little circle there. That was last night's update. We were looking for resistance up into about like 109.96, and I actually think the high might have been 109.96, and it was. So, yeah, looking for us to resume lower. Pretty simple, really, with dollar yen. Let me see where the 618 is on this. 618, so just a bit higher, 110.20s. But yeah, coming into next week, I do like looking at dollar yen. Yen cross is generally on the downside. I know that sounds weird because we were looking at US dollar, that index, to maybe base, but even though we have possible support a little bit lower. But again, trade each setup, don't apply it, you know, just the US dollar analysis, just blanket to everything. And you can see that this week. For one, you could excuse me, you could have US dollar come off some, you know, base, and then you could have euro, you know, turn higher, euro, pound, Aussie come off, and dollar yen could still come off, right? We saw that this week. You had the dollar stabilized, but the euro is actually pretty strong this week, whereas the pound was weak. So don't just apply the US dollar, you know, possible direction to, you know, everything that you're looking at dollar wise, right? It is easier, I would say, from an analysis and trading standpoint when you have, you know, a dollar centric market, you know, whereas everything's kind of making sense, but that's not always the case. All right, so that's dollar yen, pretty simple, false break to the upside. Resuming lower maybe next week, looking at, you know, where we traded to this morning, to maybe 110.20 as possible resistance. But now I'm going to get into some other yen crosses. All right, so might as well just start with euro yen. Again, we're still looking maybe for a little bit more strength potentially in euro yen. You can see the line that goes back to the 2012 low, and then I've got this line here that connects highs back to 2020, and we reversed back here on March 18th. We've come back to test that high. I would like to see if we could try to test these lines here, right? Especially, make this thicker. Hold on. There we go. So this is that line from 2012. You can see the importance, and that was kind of as a pivot. So I'd really like to see that try to get tested, and that's going to be like 131 and change. But if you're looking for a trigger, there it is. So again, excuse my allergies here. I'm sure that's annoying. Not much I can do about it right now. But yeah, your trigger here is this trend line. You can see here, this is a trend line back to November. And, you know, kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here with Euro Yen. Break down here, take a short, look for a test of that 200-day average, the top side of this blue line, which was the line off of 2014 and 2018 highs. That was resistance for a minute, and that's where we would be targeting. But as we head into next week, that area just above 131 is the level I'm looking at in Euro Yen. Okay. Pound Yen. This is one that we looked at last week, and I think this was the favorite setup coming into this week. And we were looking for resistance at 153.85. We did not get there. We got to 153.41. But when I zoom into this chart, you can see the sharp drop that we had this week, right? So I've got this bold line here. This is going to be 151.60. Which is going to be between the 50 and 618. But generally speaking, you know, look, that level, 151.60 to 151.90 is going to be where I'm looking for resistance as we get into next week. If I go into the daily chart, you can see the bounce level, which is essentially this low here from March 24th, would make sense. That is the center line as well from the channel off of the March 2020 low. You know, so I'm not calling for this prediction of this pattern. However, just for visual purposes, you kind of see, you know, look, if you have a topping process here, right? Markets tend to trade in certain manners. So, you know, take out the low, maybe get a bounce, blah, blah, blah. You can see I'm getting that little head and shoulders action. Again, I'm not predicting it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. However, would it surprise me if we got something like that? No, it wouldn't. Now, it's important to pay attention to the center line here, okay? The action here is subtle, but you can see, probably see it better on an intraday chart. You can see the action we had here on the center line. This is why this is important. So it was resistance, resistance, and then we just broke through it here in mid-February and then just off to the races, right? So watch this center line, because if you get something like this, where it's basically the opposite of what happened back here, then you get a breakdown level, okay? Then you want to go with it. If you get something like this, and this is my favorite setup, right? You come down through the median line, then you rally into it, and then you look to sell that, right? So the median line then becomes resistance. Why is that my favorite setup? Because risk is small, right? You're trading into the level, and you're going to know right away if you're wrong. So and that's all we can ask for, right? Is tight risk. Okay, so that is Pound Yen. Again, Pound Yen is still one of my favorites as far as the bear setup's concerned. The question is, do we rally a little bit more in the next week, 150, to 152 or so, or are we going to go for a breakdown sooner than later? But really, the biggest thing here is to pay attention to the center line on Pound Yen. Okay. Let's get to some others. We got Aussie Yen. All right, Aussie Yen. Similar to Pound Yen in that we had, or not Pound Yen, excuse me, but Euro yen, that we had a long-term trend line. We were looking for resistance and we didn't quite get there. However, Aussie yen may be a little more mature than pound yen in its little topping process that we have here. So this is one of two things, right? It's either a triangle top or it's a triangle before we go for another leg up, right? This is an Elliott triangle. A, B, where B is higher than the origin of A, C, D, E. If that's a bullish triangle, then the market's going to attempt to move higher probably from about where we are, this morning. My view is that it's not, and that we're going to try to break down, but pay attention to the neckline, which is going to be 82.50. And that's that. You can see that this is a good example of daily reversal resistance holding as resistance, right? I've used that term several times during this webinar: daily reversal resistance, daily reversal support. You can see that the high here, this is the reversal day high. That was from March 18th. And we have that thick line on the close of that day. And guess what? It was resistance not once, twice, but thrice times. Okay? With the most recent being on Tuesday, April 6th. So you can see how precise that method can be at providing support and resistance levels to work with. All right, last cross here for yen and last FX cross, and then look at some commodities real quick. And take a quick look at indices. All right, so this is CAD yen, and we're looking at the same thing here that we have been for a while. Just the channel from the March 2020 low, and we've been banging against the top of that channel. Not quite a month, but you can see it started on, I guess, March 15th. Resistance came off, back to a new high. Resistance came off. This is a chart from last night. I was actually looking for us to maybe extend a little bit lower and get support around 86 and change before we bounced. That did not happen. Instead, we bounced. So this is the level I'm looking for, resistance. We're trading right at it now. So again, based on my dollar CAD analysis, where we might be slipping a little bit lower before we turn up, this might not be right. However, the big thing here is simply the channel. Okay, so as you know, or should know, I am working with Scandinavian Capital Markets as the Chief Technical Strategist. We're based in Stockholm. Scandinavian Markets is a market maker, and we are looking for profitable traders to join our ranks. We have clients all over the globe that are looking for more strategies to invest in. So if you are a profitable trader and you would like to get into the money manager world, all goes according to plan and things go well, you can get your, you can get your strategy funded with up to $2 million. Okay, so come and show us your skills. To register, go to scandinavianmarkets.com/fundmytrades. Again, that is scandinavianmarkets.com/fundmytrades.